Hey, welcome back to the Covenant Eyes podcast. In part one, Doug Smith shared powerful insights on parenting and technology. And if you haven't watched that one, go back and check it out. Today, Karen and Doug are diving into the hot topic of AI and what it means for families and the church. Would you do us a big favor? Be sure to subscribe so that we can get these important messages and stories to more people, and so you don't miss informative conversations like this one.
Yeah, let's pivot and talk a little bit about AI, because I think that's a big topic. I think let's start with, leveraging AI as a tool, in ministry. I know a lot of leaders do that, but let's talk about the downfalls to that too.
Right. Well, so I've been doing a lot of writing on my website, a lot of thinking about this because I'm in technology again, and this is AI is everywhere. Everybody's talking about it. Mm-hmm. It's going to change everything. It's going to, it's take everybody's jobs away, or it's going to change. It's going to make this utopia or this dystopia, depending on who you listen to. Yep. And I've been really surprised again, as a ministry leader, how quickly ministry leaders have been willing to adopt it. Really almost again with a tool trope. It's a tool, it's just how I use it. And they don't recognize how dangerous it is, how fundamentally different and what I'm talking about is the current generation of chatbots, the ChatGPTs, Gemini, Claude, all these things. They are designed to become an intimate ministry partner. Tristan Harris recorded it. He's the leader at the Center for Humane Technology. And he talks about that with social media was designed as a race to the brainstem. And that was kind of the first generation of AI in a way. The algorithms are artificial intelligence driven. But the new chatbots, they're designed for a race to intimacy. How does that work? Well, they're designed to look like and feel sentient. They're designed so that the only people we chatted before chatbots were people, right? We just chatted with other people, and they've done a great job of making it feel like people. Mm-hmm. But this particular person is designed with all the same behavioral psychology exploiting ideas that want to drive engagement, quick request response, pleasurable, complimentary. They're even, they apologize when you call them out on being wrong. But also, they're always confident, but they're often wrong. Even the latest models are up to 33% or more of it is what they call hallucination. But even that is a misnomer. They have no idea what they're talking about, but they pretend to be intelligent. Yeah. There's a lot of deception around what this is and how it works. And I can go into a lot of detail. There's a lot of stuff on my blog as well on that. But I really want to warn ministry leaders, again, this is an issue of discipleship. Yeah. Who are you being discipled to become if you're outsourcing your ability to think critically, your ability to reason, to discern? The more you do this quick request response, the less you are able to really understand if the answer is right or if it's just good enough. Mm-hmm. And it's a really, really huge risk. So I have big warning flags around it for ministry leaders especially.
Yeah, that's great. And where can people go to find your blog so they can learn more about that?
Yeah, thank you for asking. Yeah. So my name is Doug Smith. It's a very common name. So DougSmith.com would have costed me $32,000, so it's not there. It's that Doug Smith. So if you THAT, that Doug Smith is where I blog as well. So there's a lot of stuff on there. If you're interested, I've got a lot of references, a lot of scriptures, a lot of research. All the things I'm saying here are research-based. I'm a nerd. I care deeply about the science, and not fear-based. It's all based on this is exactly how they're designed. This is how they work, and this is what they're doing already. We're seeing people develop dependencies and decreased discernment capabilities. We're seeing some really shocking and concerning behaviors as a result of using AI right now.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I've seen studies on that as well. Now that we're kind of talking about AI, let's dive a little bit deeper into that. I think, especially with our work at Covenant Eyes, we see the dark side of the internet, certainly, deep fakes, and now pornography can be generated using AI, pulling just images of other people and making pornography. I mean, there is a lot of danger out there. I've heard horror stories of kids in school, somebody will take their picture and then use AI and generate pornography content and then distribute that. And now that person has to say, that wasn't me, and try to defend their livelihood and their, being a kid. And so let's talk about the dangers, because I think there are some really dark things that AI is doing, especially when it relates to trafficking and pornography. And let's just talk about that a little bit.
Oh, there's so much, Karen. It's so heartbreaking. Isn't it true that almost every tool we create, we bend towards something dark? And, when the Bible says there's a prince of the power of the air, that there is a spiritual battle. I mean, when the things, you and I see behind the scenes, the things that the predators are creating, they're actually, when I talk about discipleship, it's who we are becoming is this almost, they're generating more predators by the way that they are able to teach them to desire these deviant and often pedophile-like and lots of things, because you can, obviously child pornography especially is illegal to create, but AI can create it all day long. And in all kinds of different ways, everything you can imagine is available, and it's really, really horrible, and it just amps up the problem. Not only that, but even the things like using AI to become for the stalkers of the world that are trying to lure. You hear these stories of kids who are on social media, and there's this thing called sextortion, where children are targeted. They think there's some 16-year-old girl is coming after this guy and but he's really a 40-year-old man, and he's like gets them to do something on camera that they regret, and then they are then exploited or extorted for spending, give me $1,000 or I'm going to show these pictures that you just made to your mom. There's suicides that happen as a result of that. Well, they use AI to create to have those conversations, write this in the voice of a 16-year-old girl or whatever, so it's like all these things are being exploited and used to target our kids and used to target us. And so, the surface area of the problem of pornography is getting worse and worse and worse. It's something that we have to take very seriously to combat it within our lives and within our homes and within our families.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of people, tend to think, well, that's not really happening where I'm at, or, and they don't realize, right where I live in Kentucky, there was literally a man who was just arrested who had gone on Facebook, swiped pictures of people's kids and their wives, and went out and generated AI pornography and was distributing that online. That happened right near me, and it does happen. I think it happens more frequently than we understand. So, let's talk a little bit. I'm a grandma, so and thank the Lord, my daughter worked at Covenant Eyes, so she understands the work that we do here, and she also understands the dark side of the internet. And so she makes it a point to make sure that my grandchild's picture is never online. It's just, there are no pictures of her floating around.
That's awesome.
I know that's not possible for everybody. And I'm not trying to advocate one way or the other, but I am saying that we do need to be cautious and vigilant as parents and protect our children, because it's the people out there that have access to those things that can really extort and exploit them. So let's talk a little bit more about AI's dark side and the capacity for darkness that it has. I don't want to put fear into people, but I do want people to understand what we're up against. So can you just unpack a little bit about how AI dehumanizes people? Let's start there and maybe build off of that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, again, this is not a fear-based, people often say, well, you're just afraid. Well, and then they dismiss it. And it kind of comes back to, I just want to answer your question, but kind of pick up on the thing with our kids as well. There is this, I often call it the not my kid fallacy. It's like, it's probably not happening in my house because I live, some of our best friends are missionaries in Indonesia, and they're working with villagers who have nothing but no power at all, but maybe a battery on a smartphone, and they're all addicted to pornography. So it's like, it's just like pornography is out there, it's everywhere. And so it's unfortunately, I have to tell you, your kid could be. And if you start with the not my kid fallacy, you are disconnecting the conversation with your kids that you really need to have. You've got to be aware that your child is susceptible just like we are. So the dehumanizing aspects of AI, one of the things that as a Christian that I look at is this idea of what is an idol really? And we think of idolatry as, this gold statue that we're bowing down. Really, idols are anything that we put in place of God and Jesus told us to seek his kingdom first. Well, AI is designed to seek it first instead. It's designed to be injected into our brain so that the first thing we think of when we have a problem or have any question or anything at all, it's, what is ChatGPT? Oh, I've got a hard problem to solve. What does Claude say? That again is by careful design. That was not an accident. It's everybody's doing it because they made it that way. So then you look at the idea that these are machine generated words. These machines have no concept of reality, but they pretend to. They're not sentient, but they appear to be. There's a lot of deception around that. That's a dehumanizing factor as well. One of the scriptures that I find kind of haunting is Psalm 115, which talks about what happens with people who build idols that can't speak, they can't see, they can't hear, they can't smell, they can't feel. But the verse that really stands out to me there, I think, is verse 8. It says, "Those who make them become like them, so do all who trust in them." And so it's this idea that the more we use an idol or the more we use a machine, we become like them. So it's not like that we're becoming, or that the machines necessarily are becoming smarter. They're not smart at all. It's that we're becoming dumber, we're becoming less wise, less discerning, and even less human by our use because we're becoming more like it. And so the more we're amazed by what it can do, the more we're changed by it. And there's real risks there of being captivated and taken down a road that is quite dangerous and, as you said, dehumanizing.
It's kind of scary. I mean, when you think about it, because it's happening so quick. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts, just kind of trying to keep up on AI and the changes. And, I think it was the OpenAI group that was talking just recently about how the model, or whatever you want to call it, it actually was preventing itself from being shut down. It was maneuvering and preventing it, and the guy was like, well, if this, and they asked him, like, what would you do if this thing doesn't shut down? And they're like, well, you better kill that power source, because at some point it is going to protect itself. I mean, and that's like the Terminator,
right?
Scary future, which I don't want to go down that road. But I do think that as Christians, and this happens even at church small group, I've seen, most people I know, if you have a question or you want information, what do? You open up your phone and you look it up on ChatGPT or, your search bar, which is basically using the algorithms as well.
That's right.
So how does that shape us and shape our worldviews? Because I think, it, like you said, the information isn't always inaccurate.
Right.
And so we're taking that and not fact checking it. We're just assuming it's correct. And just like social media and media in general, it's skewed to the views of who's creating it.
Absolutely.
And so as Christians, those companies are not being developed necessarily by Christians. So how do we navigate that? Because I think there's good uses of AI, but I think that as Christians, our source needs to be the Bible if we have questions, yes. Right?
Totally.
So talk to me a little bit about how do we balance that? Because we do live in the world, so we have to use it sometimes in our jobs or in other ways, but how do we balance it?
Yeah, good. That's great, Karen. Just pointing to the scriptures, yes, as Christians, we have to be immersed in the Bible. One of the bad things about AI coming in when it did is it's catching us at a time when so few people are reading at all already. We already weren't reading our Bibles. Mm-hmm. Now we trust AI, which has no binding to reality. And again, when I say that, I've got this on my website. I've got a diagram that kind of shows how this all works. But we read the words, we connect them to real world concepts. But the chatbots only know statistical relationships between words. It's like autocomplete on steroids. There's no actual truth value there. So if it's right or wrong, it has no idea. So it will spout out whatever is most probable. It hasn't chosen those words with anything else other than probabilities, which is a terrible way to find truth. And then if we aren't reading the word, if we aren't in the word, we can just be so easily led astray. I just read a study that talked about how they just did a study of people interacting with human through chat and chatbots through chat, and found that the chatbots were actually between 3 and 10% more persuasive than the humans were.
Wow.
So like, as you talk about the worldview of the creators, chatbots have a worldview because they are trained by the training data of these companies. And they never get tired. They're always on point. They're always on message. They're always on brand. They're always on whatever they are trying to do, which is what? To keep using them, to help us keep using them. So think about that when you hear something from ChatGPT and then you hear something from someone else and you believe the chatbot more than your friend, that is an intimate trust relationship. Right. And that's a real significant concern. So, what I'm encouraging people to do is to really look at this idea of that intimate, that trust relationship that we're building, and to instead, as we talk about at Covenantize, the need for real in-person relationships for accountability. We ask questions of people we trust. Hopefully everybody listening would say, if I have a question, if I'm having a real problem at home, I have a friend I could call. If you don't have that and you're asking ChatGPT instead, you're getting advice from something that doesn't have your best interest at heart. It doesn't know you. I'm reading about AI therapists, counselors, like there's whole platforms of like, hey, I can't afford a counselor, so I'm going to go. This is a disembodied piece of technology that does not know you, does not have your best interests at heart, and yet it makes you feel like it does. Mm-hmm. That's deception and a real problem. Yeah. So I just really encourage people to take a very, very hard look at it. If you are required to use it at work, I would, in terms of like the balance conversation, I would remind people that it's only been like 2.5 years and it's being sold today. Like how did we ever in the world live without this, right? We could never live another day if I don't have this ability to do this. So I'm really asking people to maybe not know, but take at least a hard look at why is this imperative? Why this? And if the message really is, well, I'm going to be left behind. Well, that's fear of missing out. So do we want to make decisions based on fear? I don't think so. There may be use cases for it, but there's a lot of use cases that are really concerning, especially for people that don't have a lot of experience, that can't discern whether the answer is right or wrong. And it's not even a matter of right or wrong. It's like 90% right, 10% wrong. It's just a little bit off, but enough off to where it's trending you in this other direction. So obviously there's a lot more we can talk about there, but I hope that that's at least a little bit of a framing of how to look at it.
No, that's good. So do you use AI?
So I don't at all.
Really? Okay, not at all.
At this point, I personally am not. And the reason is that the more I'm digging into it, the more I'm researching it, the more in fact, a friend of mine said, for you, Doug, this is a conscience thing now. The more I'm seeing what's being done behind the scenes, how it's being used, I'm taking a very hard wait and see so that I can do the research around it and speak into it. I'm being asked to do these podcasts a lot. Yeah. And I find that it's a lot easier to see what's going on when you're not in the middle of it and to take that step back. You mentioned the worldview of the creators. If you again, on my blog, I talk about Sam Altman, leader of OpenAI. He talks about the idea that he thinks he's creating God. Yeah. Ray Kurzweil, when he's asked, does God exist? His answer is not yet. I mean, these are leaders. These are the tech company highest echelon elites. Yeah. They believe they're creating a deity, homo deus. They're creating, like, we will merge with the machine in a transhumanist way, or we'll be left off an evolutionary branch that will just die out. Like, so their worldview, they want us to be so connected. This is an existential thing for them to win. And so when I look at that, when I look at all these concerns and problems, I'm not finding anything in my life that I need it for that's more important for me than to see it clearly for what it is and to be able to help other people see that too. So that's my current stance for my personal life.
That's amazing. And being someone that's in the tech space to be able to withstand that, I think that's great. So I think that's maybe even a topic for a future book for you, is how Christians, cannot get tapped into this AI world. I know personally, I do use AI. I have found uses for it. In the medical space, you can actually take, and I know, people are like, oh, but they have your data. And it's like, they already have my data. So I'm not really that concerned about it. But you can take blood panels and you can take medical reports and upload that in it and have it analyze that. And then compare that to your doctor's notes just to kind of as a double check. I find that fascinating. I have it help me develop like workout routines and dietary things. So, I've found uses for it, but I also know that I could do all of those things myself. And that's the difference, though, I think. I think the generation that I'm from, we had the ability to, be able to do work, and we had to think critically. And so we've got these skills already developed to where we can do these things. So if we leverage AI as an assistant like you would maybe as an intern, giving them medial tasks that just take up a lot of time, but you already know how to do it. So it's not like taking away. But young people, they're using it right out of the gate when they have not even established the skill sets and the critical thinking abilities yet to, you know, be able to discern and to dive in, and even like workplace skills. So how do you think that's like impacting young people? Because if their first inclination is to go to AI and just get the answer, or, hey, I don't want to read this book, just tell me what's in it.
Yeah.
There's value in reading the book, right? You know, so like, what is that doing to our young people? It's got to be detrimental.
It is. It's hugely detrimental. You know, there's an interesting theme as we have these conversations. It's always targeting the young, targeting the young, targeting the young. Like, we have an enemy that hates our kids.
Yeah.
You know, and so you look at this. Yeah, the education system is so just being devastated. One of my best friends is a professor at a university, and he's like seeing these kids that have never opened a book at all, ever, you know, getting into undergrad, and he's having to help them, like, and so they're so gravitated. All of us are gravitated to quick and easy, right?
Yeah.
If we had these tools when we were young, we would have wanted the quick and easy too. We don't realize how harmful it is. And so they're not learning. If we can't read and we can't write, we can't express or discern thinking. We can be led anywhere. We can be deceived into anything. And besides that, we can't, these things that learning at all is hard. The things we've learned to do, you talk about critical thinking, writing an essay, doing long division, like solving hard problems is hard because our brains have to learn how to create the pathways to make those hard things doable. But if we replace that with the quick and easy, then we expect everything to be quick and easy, and we'll never try to do anything hard. And that bodes really, really, that's a really big problem for our society as we look at building our society on a foundation of people who don't know how to go through the struggle, build their character, build the grit to overcome difficult things, or who can be led by the next popular whoever that comes along that says, hey, this is the way. And they've maybe never read the Bible or read something that is really true. Yeah. And so they don't know when they're being led astray. So it's a significant issue. We really need to, again, I tell people that, Sam Altman, Mark Zuckerberg, they're not sending their kids to schools that their kids are not using ChatGPT in school. Your kids shouldn't either. And right. If they're being told that they need to, well, that's just, it's really, really harmful to them.
Yeah, they're using paper and pencil.
They really, truly are.
Yeah, which is really unique, but there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
Parents need to take that into consideration.
Yes.
Well, let's kind of circle back to the book a little bit, because I definitely want to get our listeners to take a look at that and read the book, not ChatGPT, the book. Read the book. But what are some of the takeaway principles that people can walk away from this? Like, what are they going to be compelled to do with their life differently after reading this book?
Yeah, thank you. So I really wrote the book. It's sometimes, again, in these conversations, people feel guilty or uncomfortable. It's kind of like, just like, I don't want to know what's going on because I don't want to know how bad it is. And it's not that at all. People who've read it tell me that it's gracious, it's welcoming, it's not condemning. It's really what I look at it as. It's a Christian discipleship book in a tech-saturated age.
Okay.
And so what I go through is what worked for me, what helped me. Jesus set me free from screen addictions and especially from pornography. It's not just an anti-pornography book, but that was one of the things I had to overcome. But it's many things. And it's by starting out by, again, showing what the industry is doing, but then again, walking through what I call 5 biblical practices, which are really classic spiritual disciplines, but they're all just wrapped around this idea of if you do these things, if you walk in his ways, you can walk in freedom. And thousands of people that I've talked with in seminars and who've read the book and who I've interacted with and who I've mentored, they find that when they put these things into practice, it's still good. God is still able to help us overcome. We talked a lot about a lot of scary things, and there's a lot, but God is still way, way more powerful. He can still do abundantly above all that we could ask or imagine. Yes. And so I cast that vision of hope and help and help people to walk through it. It is a different way. We have to do something different. Why not do what Jesus died to give us and the freedom that he died and he rose again to offer to us? It's still available. It's still the best thing on offer. And that's really what my book gives as the opportunity for us to follow in.
I love that. And I think our young people actually are starting to wake up to technology's damaging effects. I've seen several news articles recently talking about young people going to dumb phones or just taking tech breaks. And so as Christians, especially older Christians, we need to be ready to disciple. And so this book could really help us and equip us in those principles, and be ready to help the next generation who is probably ready for real connection, not this fake online connection. We work at Covenant Eyes, and so, we have an app, and of course people are, connected in that way. But I think what makes us different than most tech companies is that we are about accountability, and true accountability is with other human beings. It's connection with real people. And so our technology is designed to foster connection between real people. That's right. I think that's what really separates us from the pack. The one disturbing thing that I've noticed, the recent Barna study that just came out showed that a very large percentage of Christians who are struggling with pornography said that nobody knows about it. And so they've told nobody, no one knows. So they're probably not connected to other people. What advice do you have for those listeners who, don't have that community, don't have that accountability partner, don't have connection? What would you recommend for them?
Yeah, that's super hard. Our society really has fostered this notion of the idea that when you're online, you're connected, but we know that we're not, because real in-person connection is a whole different category. It's a whole different thing than online. Online connections can be helpful, but Mark Zuckerberg wants to offer us AI personas to be able to kind of combat the loneliness epidemic, which he kind of created with social media. It's like, so if you feel alone, and if you look at your technology use, maybe even beyond pornography, and you realize that, hey, I am alone, but I'm on my screen all the time. Well, you see that correlation. And so I would just invite you to ask the question. It's going to be probably super uncomfortable but I guarantee you, if you go to a pastor and you say, you know what, I need a friend, there's not a pastor in the world that's not going to say, you know what, I know a guy, or I'll be your friend. Yeah. If you can think of anyone, I know it's such a huge lift, such a huge risk, and especially if you've been kind of, is it agoraphobia, or like a fear going outside, whatever it is, if you've been in that place and you're just super afraid, well, you've got to take that step. It is a step of faith. It is a step of courage, but it was so very worth it. It will change everything. You're made for that. We are not made to be isolated drones all in a dark room on a screen all the time. We're made for in-person. Yeah. So it's very, very different that we're all isolated and we're feeling it, right? And so we seek for connection online. We seek for connection in pornography, but it's all fake. And God is real. The church is real. Relationships can be real. And like you said, at Covenant Eyes, we found that is the secret sauce. It's not an app. It's not a technique. It's not a strategy. It's a person. It's a person in God, it's a person in Jesus, and it's a person in your close relationships that you can connect with, that can help walk with you to find freedom. Absolutely. That is the best thing we have to offer.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think this is an opportunity for our churches to be available for people, because there is a loneliness epidemic. Oh, yes. People are more disconnected, even though they're technically connected. And so as a church, in-person gatherings and community events, getting people together, I think those are even more important today than they ever were, just because we are so disconnected. And I think, I often think about, that's probably a great way to reach into your community and to show the love of Christ, is to bring people together over a meal and, joy, and show that happiness, and then allow people to get connected, because we are so torn apart by technology. So with that, I definitely want to, once again, just share the book with our listeners. I want to make sure everybody has the opportunity to take a look at this. We'll put links to that in the show notes. Can you give our listeners, again, your website so that they can check you out? And your blog is fantastic, by the way. So thank you for digging into AI, because, again, it's something I use, but I also know the dark side. So I am trying as a Christian to figure out what that balance is. I'm not as good as you are, though. I have not completely abandoned ship yet, but I'm getting close.
That's all good. Well, thank you, Karen. I mean, I think God makes me teach these things so that I'll stay on the right path, and so I'm learning as I learn. It is hard, but yeah, I love to connect with people. If you go to my website, thatdougsmith.com, you can find the book, you can find my blog, you can sign up for an email list, all the things. I love questions. I love helping people with this stuff. And I even love hard questions, challenges, challenge me on some of this stuff. We're all very early in this conversation. We're all learning. And so we have a lot to learn, but the stakes are really high. So we do need to, again, if nothing else, to keep our eyes focused on Jesus, to walk with him, and to ask him to help us go where he wants us to go, even in this tech-saturated age.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. And to all of our listeners, thanks so much for tuning in to this episode of the Covenant Eyes podcast. Make sure you get a copy of Doug's book. It is fantastic. And honestly, it will open your eyes to principles and biblical principles that really will help you navigate technology. And as we all kind of go into this new frontier of AI together, I think we're going to need that. So take care, everybody. God bless. We'll see you next time on the Covenant Eyes podcast.